I needed some cherry lumber to make my decks and thwarts and gunnels and seat frames, and I happened to find some at an auction. And here's a picture of what I got. Um, it was a load that they claimed was about 180 board feet. It turns out it was about 275 board feet. So I got a pretty nice deal on that.
Okay, so I'm cutting scuppers in my in whales, and so the way I'm doing that is I created this little jig here, um, and it's not so much that it matters on the top or the bottom as long as it goes, well past the edge here. Um, but it matters on the sides, of course, that we have an equal width. So basically, what I've done is I got a dish cutting bit. Um, and it's basically just got a bushing or a bearing actually at the top, so it follows a pattern, so it follows that little jig that I made, and it cuts a little cove like that, and then you just use it to clean out the middle, and so it's going really pretty fast. So I just clamp it down. I've marked my scuppers with X's, so I know which ones to cut and which ones not to cut. And like I said, it's going pretty fast. Using a plunge router, so I just set my router on top here, and then turn it on, plunge it, and clear out the waste, and then move along. Well, it's been a little while since I have taken some video here. So since the last video, I think that was the scuppering that I did. So I've installed the in whales. This piece here that's scuppered. I made the decks. And I'm now installing the out whale, which will basically comprise the gunnel. Okay, so and I've installed the thwart, which is biscuited between the in whale and the thwart. So not only biscuited, but it's got some screws going in that direction. So it should be pretty solid, I think. Anyhow, so getting a lot of crap in the canoe because as I plane down or sand or any number of things, there's easy enough place to grab it from if I need it. So anyhow, so making pretty good, I think, progress now. I kind of took a break, and so I've decided just to screw on the out whale rather than glue it on, because I think that's probably the component that's going to take the most beating, in terms of oars hitting it or paddles hitting it or running into something with it or anything like that. So I'm just putting a screw about every 8 inches, just making sure I don't run into the screws that I used to attach the in whale, which of course is both screwed and glued on. And anyhow, so right now I'm using these 1.25 inch silicon bronze screws, which is a little bit of an effort because I actually got to use a hand screwdriver to twist them in so I don't bust the heads or anything. But anyhow, so it's kind of like a 3-step process. I'm using actually 3 drills. I made a little jig, so I'll set this jig on the out whale. That tells me where to drill my initial pilot hole. I'm using this drill with the self-centering bit, and it fits right in that 1/4 inch hole, so it's putting it exactly where I want the hole. Because the outwale is tapered, you can see down here it's tapered quite a bit. So this is only about 3/8 of an inch wide at the top, and my holes are 5/16, so I don't have much room on either side. Because I'm going to bung those um, after after I get them all put in. I made some plugs that are 5/16 plugs. I don't know, when I first started the project. So I've got a whole bunch of them here. Some of them are maple, some of them are Osage orange, some of them are purple heart. Um, Anyhow, so I'm going to use those and have a little different kind of colors going along the edge of the outwale. Or gunnel, because it'll be a complete in-wale and out-wale. Anyhow, so that's how it's all going together. This is going to get me really close to the finish line. Basically the only things after this is going to be some fairly aggressive sanding on the decks and the gunnel. So you can see the decks because this slopes a little bit in here. The decks are in some cases a little, proud of the, the gunnel. So we'll just sand those straight down to, being smooth with the gunnel, and then everything else needs to get sanded. I might have to do a little bit of patchwork on some of these bubbles, and then okay, I want to show you how I made my decks. They're cherry, just like the gunnels, the in-wales and the out-wales. And basically what I did was I took a big piece of 6/4 cherry. This is actually a cutoff. It's quite a bit larger than this. It was about a little over 2 feet long and about 18 inches wide. Of course, you don't need that big of a board, but that's what I had. I bought some cherry at an auction at a very good price. You can see the rest of it's up there on my shelf, but I think I got it for about $1.65 a board foot, I think, which is really really good. Anyhow, so it was rough sawn, and I wanted to make it thick enough to be able to plane it down and everything. So anyhow, basically what I did was I cut my really wide board into 2 sections. Okay, so I split it down the middle, and I cut off the end with the checks because there was some checks in the end. Is obviously it's a wide board, and you get that especially at the ends. So I just squared up the whole thing, and then I took the 2 halves and I cut them diagonally, so from corner to corner like this. And then basically what you do is you flip them the opposite way and butt them together. Okay, so for me, I used this straight edge, which worked great for me. In fact, I got a really good edge. I just had to run a planer over it, hand plane over it a couple of times, take out any waves, but a really good edge to glue up. And I ended up getting pieces like this. Okay, so so of course it was square at the end, but basically you get this sort of triangular shaped one. Then I took this trash can lid and I laid it down over the ends of the board, and I just traced around it to get this nice radius. and I cut that on my bandsaw, and then just ran it through a disc sander to smooth it out. Um, I got a rather wide glue joint. That's because I used thickened epoxy in the joint. I don't mind that you see the line there. If you don't want to use the line, I think I would, or see the line, I think I would suggest you use like a tight bond and some pretty heavy clamping pressure. In this case, I didn't do a lot of heavy clamping pressure because it was epoxy. I just kind of clamped it together to hold it in place. Okay, so once I got my kind of my ice cream cone shape here, I just took uh, the cut, the deck piece, and I laid it in between the gunnels and just traced it, and then I cut two sides. And it is slightly different at the bow than it is at the stern. Alright, so I'm starting to get going on finishing my boat. Um, you can see I'm starting to put the varnish now on the decks and the gunnels and um, thwarts, etc. Um, I, I, I did these in cherry, so um, there's not quite as much contrast to the boat itself as I thought there might be. I thought they would be darker and richer, and they probably are a little bit, but um, anyhow, they got nice little grain features and everything in them, so they're pretty. Anyhow, so right now I've got two coats of varnish, actually of gloss varnish. I actually sealed all my cherry with a satin wipe-on poly. Um, so I started with a sealer, and now I'm on a couple of coats of gloss varnish. When I am done with that, I will be doing the inside of my hull with a satin varnish, mainly because I don't want the reflection so bad, while I'm sitting in it in the sun out in the water. Um, and hopefully it'll mute some of there's a few bubbles in here like these. Hopefully it'll mute some of that, I guess. But we'll see. I mean, it is the interior, so the bubbles aren't that big of a deal in terms of seaworthiness. But they're, of course, an eyesore, so I'm kind of unhappy with the way the interior of the hull came together. Um, anyhow, I have the interior sanded, so anyhow, I have that all sanded now. I've sanded it with 120 grit, so it should have a good tooth for um, the varnish to go on. And also I have sanded a lot of the exterior, but I'll finish sanding that when I get it flipped over. But you can see it's a nice matte right now. It will get the gloss varnish like I'm using on the woodwork, on the gunnels and thwarts and decks. Anyhow, and you can see the cherry is turning out pretty nice. I used some colored bungs for covering the screw heads. I used bronze screws, and I embedded them, pretty deep down, countersunk them pretty deep down, and then I made these about a year ago, just before I started the boat. Actually, all these little plugs. So purple heart, Osage orange, walnut, maple, which I thought would contrast quite a lot more, and then back to the purple heart. So just 4 different colors, and I just kind of alternated them all the way up and down the length. So it kind of looks neat, just a little detail. Okay, and I finished my seats yesterday. So this one happens to be the rear seat, so it's kind of short. But it's just the same wood. It's that cherry wood. I sealed that with polyurethane. I may varnish these ends, but I'm not sure about that. Anyhow, so nice woven nylon fabric and should be nice and comfortable.
And here's how I mounted the seats. It was a pretty good look at it. I got some long bronze bolts. Um, they're actually like a screw head or an oval screw head on this machine bolt. I think those were 8 inches long. And some I couldn't find bronze nuts, so I did use brass nuts and washers. And you can see I drilled straight through the in whale, and I used washers on the top and bottom. I used a nut to snug up against the in whale, and then a nut on top of the seat bracket, and then two nuts to lock the seat bracket in place below the seat bracket itself. And that just allows for adjustment, so you can raise or lower the seat, or it really is not a lot of lowering space there, but allows you to raise up or tilt the seat a little bit to make it a little more comfortable. So um, pretty sturdy mounting, and it wasn't all that difficult. Took a little tuning to get it right, but it worked out pretty well.